Good morning. I'm
Good
Angela Bron.
morning.
Good morning. I'm Angela Brancato. I'm one of the editors and authors of the new anthology Brave. It's a collection of true stories by the women who live the stories. I'm here with publisher and writer of Brave, one of the writers of Brave, Tammy Lowe. Good morning, Tammy. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Hi,
I'm
Ange.
well, thank you. Now, I should point out to the viewers that you do have a little bit of a cold today, so if you have to stop and cough or take a drink, we're all good with that, okay?
I appreciate you. Thank you so
All
much.
right, no problem. So, as you know, we're interviewing each of the authors of Brave so that readers can get to know us, learn a little bit about our stories, and find out about future opportunities for anyone that wants to be a part of the anthology series. So,
Mhm.
this is the first of the book, the first of the series. We'll talk a little bit about that. This book, Brave, is your brainchild, and so how did it come about?
Well, I belong to this wonderful group of women. We read Monday through Friday, 45 minutes at 8:15 a.m. And we get on Zoom. We literally go around our Zoom room and read a paragraph at a time. And we pick these gorgeous books that are inspiring, that lift us up. And so it's just a great way to start our day. One morning, one of the group, was explaining that they had joined an anthology. And she was so excited, and we were all excited for her. And there was just this tiny little pop, this little thought of, we could do that. I I know how to do that. I know how to do all the things to publish a book. I know how to write a book. I know how to outline a book from the beginning to end. I know how to do this. And I like these people. We could do that. And that's literally how it started. So we just talked about it. And by the end of that morning, we had decided we were going to. Um, and that was in September. So from September until just right now, we've been working on this, and it's been an amazing process. Actually, I know these people, but I also have gotten to know them so much more.
And I
Uh,
would agree with that. As a
so it's
participant
beautiful.
on this, I agree with you on that. Um,
Mhm.
and just I think there's some soul bearing there that's really special and dear. So
Mhm.
Brave is just the first of what you envision to be a series of anthologies. So tell
Yeah,
me a little bit more about that.
yes. So it was, as you say, a lovely process, but also challenging. And what it ended up being is like everyone who's writing their story was processing emotions from their past. And when they do that, they they can't help but have some nuggets of wisdom in the end.
Mhm.
That's what's beautiful. And then we added like gratitudes for it. So what I see it as is like almost like a personal development tool to help people evolve past their lower selves into a higher state of living, into a higher level of being. And everyone actually, I would agree, would like that. Everyone kind of wants that. I mean, the whole well-being industry is like, it's almost up there with weight loss. Like
Mm.
this is what people want, and it's what they want in their partners. They want their children and their spouses and their parents to be more connected to themselves and to each other. And I think this book helps that process for the writers and for the readers.
Mhm. I would agree. I think a lot of us had a lot of revelations through the process.
Mm.
Why do you think it's valuable for women to share their stories?
Okay, so I think I live in Florida, and one of the main things that I've learned with retirees in Florida is almost all of them have a story to tell, and they've also thought about publishing their own book. Publishing a book is like 60,000 words for, the genre that we're talking about. Uh, Publishing a 4,000 word chapter is it's one of the steps on the way to publishing this big challenging book. So everyone has a story. If you're on an airplane, every one of those people on the airplane has a story. whether or not they have not just the tools to publish it, to get it published, but the strength, the courage, to say it out loud for other people to read. That's a special kind of bravery, which is why we chose this title for this series, this book.
So is this anthology series open only to women, or do you anticipate someday making it available to anybody?
Yeah, I would say, and I'm just gonna say it. I think this is a non-binary project. So it doesn't have to be female, it doesn't have to be male, it doesn't have to be anything that we typically use to describe another human. This is for people who want to share the story, but also are processing some things. There's like blocks there. It's so it's good for all the things. I love the process, but it's for everyone. Anyone, I would say over 18, please. Please
Mhm.
over 18. That would be great. Mhm.
Yeah, one of the things maybe we should talk about is what's kind of the theme, or what's kind of the common thread throughout the book.
Okay, so for this one, what came up is we have we have 8 different, very different stories in this book in Brave. And we didn't have a strong theme going in. So everyone was free to write about their most impactful story. Like what would be your TED talk, right? And then after we had working titles and outlines and some chapters written, like then I started to see what the thread might be. And everyone was brave in and courageous in sharing. They were bold in the themes that they talked about, and specifically details of their own lives that they shared. So that's where that one came from. I think for the next one, we're also not going to have like this really strong theme, because I trust that it will rise up as we move forward.
And also, just for listeners, can you tell us some of the stories? What are some of the themes in the
Sure,
stories?
sure. So out of order, randomly, I'm not picking on anyone or leaving anyone out, but this is what's coming to mind. So we have we have a story, a lighter story about traveling and getting out of, your routine, going without a plan to Sedona, Arizona. We've got a story about what do you do when you've been raped and you are pregnant, and what do you do if that happens twice. We've got a story about suicidal ideation and how she herself navigated that. um we've got stories about relationships and marriage, and we all know that can be a challenge. So we've got a story about caring for your mother when she has dementia and Alzheimer's, and how that changes not just your relationship with each other, but like how it changes you as a person.
Mhm.
We've got your story, might I say, of how you became a child advocate by teaching in a inner city Los Angeles school, teaching those children, and how that affected you your whole life. Oh, can't wait for people to read that one.
But you're giving me all the feels. I'm getting
All the
goosebumps, and
feels. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I'm
not
just
all of them, but that is what's coming to mind right now.
right.
Yeah,
But I mean, just listening to you and kind of reliving some of what you're talking about, and knowing what the authors went through to share those stories, is profoundly moving, and I feel really privileged to have been a part of that. I know you do too.
I do.
So let's move to your chapter. Tell us about your chapter in the book, and why did you want to share such a deeply personal experience?
Yeah. So I have one of those stories that's kind of truly just, I'll say it, miraculous. Um, And I've learned a lot from that. From it. I share a little spot of time when I was 22, and I have learned so much since then. I have a different perspective. I have processed a lot of things, and what I've discovered is like our childhoods and our early years form our core values. I was not born with values or core values. I was born a clean slate, but because my experiences, certain things are more important to me now. Like choice is my number one. Everyone has a choice. Doesn't matter what family you were born into, or who you married, or what your job is, or what color your skin is, or where you live on this planet. You have a choice, right? Viktor Frankl in the Holocaust, right? They cannot take my mind. I always have a choice what goes on inside of there. So I don't know. You'll have to read it.
No, I mean, now that you say that though, the title of the book could have been Choice as well, right?
Yeah,
Because everybody's faced with choices in their stories.
yeah,
And it's what they make of those circumstances and how they proceed with their
yeah,
choices. So
yeah.
yeah, great stuff.
Mm.
Um, what do you hope readers take away from your story in particular?
From my story.
What are you imparting?
I hope that their heart is tugged a little bit to where like they see it as this is relatable. Wow, this could happen to me. Maybe parts of this have happened to me, but maybe they'd have too some increased compassion for themselves and for other people. And I mean, our brain is kind of wired to judge others. And I guess I would hope that that would be reduced a little bit.
And one of the things that you didn't mention about your many talents, in addition to being a writer, is that you're also a life coach. So I'm hearing a little life coachiness coming out in some of
Ah!
what you're talking about. Um, I was struck by, when I read your story, the trauma that you endured and how you grew into the person that you are today. What can you tell me about that?
Um, well, I have met, I used to think when when you're younger, you think you're the only one, that everyone has like this great life with these good parents, and you're the only one who has this misfortune, or and thereby, because you're the only one, my brain equated that to, you deserve this, that your soul, your value is not as great as the other children. So I do hope that people feel less alone reading all 8 of these stories, because it's real. These are not isolated incidents, right? Um, I'm sorry, what was the question? I'm lost in my own emotion.
I do that too, no problem. I was just asking what the takeaways were, what you're hoping for the reader, and I think you answered
Okay,
that.
good.
All right. What did you find most challenging, not only about writing your chapter, but putting together the book? What was
Hmm.
most challenging to you?
For putting together the book, um, I think uh, I think not knowing the path forward. Like I know how to write something. I know how to edit something. I know how to publish something. I know social media. I know pictures and images. I know how to make a good book cover. Like all the things, logistically, that's not the challenge. I think for the most part, I was successful in this, but there were times where holding space for the writer, in the same way you hold space when you're coaching, or like, having a friend confide in you, you're holding space for them, right? Holding space for the writer, and like uh cherishing kind of this new plant, like a plant comes up and it's very fragile in the beginning. And this is how it was put to me. It's very fragile in the beginning. So what you don't give too much editing too soon. It can overwhelm them and harm them, right? And that's when you came in. Literally, that's when you came in, and you're a gentle editor. You have this ability to tell the truth about the words and the paragraphs and the pages without with love and kindness. Like, you're very encouraging. I've said this many times. And it's not that I'm not, but I'm not just thinking about editing. I'm thinking about the upload on the KDP, or all of the formatting and everything else. And you were thinking about the person. And I think that was different and beautiful. And everyone noticed that. Everyone sensed that. So the challenge for me was to get out of my head about the process and just to feel grateful for all of these writers. And once I did that, I literally sat down like, why do I want to do this? I knew why others wanted to do it, but why do I want to do this? And that shifted the perspective enough. And I was grateful, I think, from then on. I would cry a little bit more when I read their stories, even though I was editing. Like, yeah, anyway, beautiful process.
And see, now there's another word, gratitude, I think is a big part of everybody's story. It's a component of everybody's story. And I think that's important too. I'm going to switch a little bit more to the writing class, and I hesitate to call it a class because it didn't feel like a class, and I call it a project, and that doesn't quite capture it either. But what can you tell me about that process from beginning to end? Like, if somebody were to be involved in this, the next one, what kind of a just overview of what that process would be?
Okay, so there's going to be, I'm going to try to make this less scary, because we've done it once. We know the pain points that we had in the process the first time. So it's 20 weeks. It's guided and supported each week. It's very clear what the expectation is. The first 2 weeks, we're introducing and getting your author pick and your bio written and all of that. We're practicing journaling so that you're getting in the habit of writing often and just pouring things out of your head. Then we have 8 weeks of 500 words a week. And then we have 7 weeks of revision, all helpful and guided with both you and I. And then we, once it's revised, then we have the other parts of how to launch the book and social media and all of the things. So we're thinking about, I mean, literally, if you want to know how to publish a book, this is how you do it. It's just on a smaller scale with 4,000 words instead of 60,000 words.
And what a great thing for people that are just stepping out to do this, like I was. So
yeah, and a friend of mine yesterday, she was saying, that sounds like fun, but I'm not really a writer, and I'm not an avid reader either. And I don't think those are requirements. This does not have to be like, I aspire to be a writer. It's not part of your identity. Most of the people in the group in this first book, they don't want to be writers. Like, they were relieved when it's over so they can stop writing.
it's storytelling though. It's storytelling.
Yes. And we
writing
all
is just
that. We
writing's
all
the
tell
medium.
stories on the couch with each other, at a cafe over coffee. We are constantly telling stories.
Right. And some of that gets lost nowadays with,
Yeah.
So I think it's a precious thing to capture and to continue as a tradition. So I know you touched on this, but what type of support did the authors receive, and why was this a core part of their experience?
Okay, so there's the logistical support, right? How do I make an outline and then transfer that into paragraphs with sentences, with noun, verb, blah, 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 all of that. There's that. How do I use Google Docs? How do I get on Zoom? Where's the dang Zoom link? Like all of the things, logistics of the process. But then there's like the emotional, I don't think I can do this. This is too painful to talk about. I want to quit. I'm not a good writer. My second grade teacher told me that I suck at reading. You know, like whatever it is, there's you get going and it doesn't take very long for someone to hit a block, something that is blocking them from moving forward. And you can quit for sure. Of course, we had more people at the beginning than we did at the end. It's totally fine. It's the decision you make. But if you don't, if you keep going, if you can trust us a little bit, and this is where the emotional support is, right? Like we had separate conversations between me and the author. I know that you had conversations with some of the authors. I think too, they had to trust themselves enough to keep going. And we tried to just foster an environment that supported in all those ways. Yeah.
Once we were underway, and I know you remember this, I certainly do, some of the authors expressed reservations or concerns about having their work edited. I mean, I know, again, you've touched on a lot of this, but in a little more detail, talk about the editing process and how was it different, pardon me, than some of the authors initially feared. I think some of them were worried about us putting words in their mouths or changing their stories. So tell me how
Yeah.
what they might have initially feared was different than what actually ended up happening and then how they received that.
Yeah, and maybe you can talk about this after I do, because since you're such a big part of that. But they have literally gone excavating through their heart and smothered this story onto the page, right? It is much more than a noun verb situation. It's more than sentences and paragraphs. It is part of them. They identify with it. This is who I am. And then it's on paper, and you've got to prepare it then for other people to read, which means it has to, you can't pull them out of the story with like a grammar issue or, whatever. So, but what that requires is you have to convert this piece of art from this is who I am, this is me, to this is now a product that we are. It's like if you've lived in a house for 20 years, it's your family home or longer, and you have to take all the pictures off the wall of your family. It has to look now like a product because people will be walking through it and they'll want to decide whether they're buying or not because it's no longer yours. It belongs to other people now. And so to get it ready for that, the first edit was the most painful. And for most of them, I think it was pretty painful. Even the ones who have been published before, I think it was a little surprise.
I think when we kind of took them back and said, as the reader, I'm not clear on what you're saying here, or are drawing questions like, well, why did you feel that way, or why did you react in that way? So then it became, you're the storyteller, tell me why you expressed it this way, or could it be expressed differently? And so then it's a partnership, and that's where the trust I think was built. Let's see. Why is the support of experienced writers and editors, why does it make this project so valuable?
Or experienced writers?
No, for us I mean, you're a published author.
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of experience writing and editing over the years. Why is the support of people like us, why does that make this particular endeavor so valuable?
Yeah. I've been to several different conferences, and there's always new writers there. And these are the people who actually attend the conference are a small fraction of all the new writers in the pool. So there's so many people who want to write a book, and they are they're really trying and working on it at home. But then to go to a conference takes the next level, right? So they're already kind of semi-committed to being that. But of those who attend, I would say like it's a small percentage who actually get published then.
Mhm.
Um, having someone to say the word to, you're putting the words out there, and then having someone there to catch them and hold them and be with you as you're going through all of the things. The support of that is kind of beautiful. I'm not, and a few of the writers too, they said, I don't think I would ever have published this without you and Angela. So
Angela wouldn't have published, been a part of this,
yeah.
without you. So,
Mhm.
um, now you have another class coming up for your next anthology in
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
Can you tell folks how they can join us in creating the next book?
Sure. So there's a website, tammylowe.com, TAMILOWE.com, and /writing. That has all the information about the class and about what Angela and I do. There's a syllabus on there, so you can see in advance exactly what you'll be asked to do and what you'll get from us. Um, all of that will be there before you make the final decision. So walking in, this is exactly what we're doing. I can put it on my calendar. I can, I'll plan for it for 20 weeks. So September 1st to February 2nd is the next book two.
And what would you say to encourage somebody to join? Why should they do this?
Hmm. I mean, I think you'll feel pulled. I think you'll feel pulled if it's a yes. You'll know if it's a yes. You'll feel that it's a yes. I
Hmm.
know that it's very common not to be kind of connected with, our bodies and to be in our heads all the time, but there will be like oh, I think I want to do that.
I think people will surprise themselves. I think if they,
Yes.
if they just open themselves to the experience, uh, they'll surprise themselves.
Yeah.
Um, so what has been the best part of this whole journey for you? Any surprises, gifts, lessons that you've taken away from this?
Yeah, I don't I could not have created this in my head in advance the way it's come about. I feel if this was all I did the rest of my life, because I could do this until like, the later years. If this was all I did, it would be more than enough. It's purposeful. It feels like my heart is saying yes to it.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing like value for each of the writers as they go through it. Um, creating help and change for people is kind of always what I wanted to do. And we can do it this way.
One thing we did not touch on are the demographics of the authors. This isn't just one type of person that's
Yeah, they're not
participating.
like all like me.
Mhm. So talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so we have two Canadians, we have Floridians, we have uh, a Chicagoan, but I'm not in Chicago, Northern Illinoisan. um, so there's, where we live is different. How we all were raised, I mean, all runs the gamut. We have a Jamaican. Um, we have just they all have very different upbringings, heritagei. We have two Mexican Americans, um, very different personalities, cultures, and upbringings. We have different professions too, like professionally, they're different. There is no type.
Right.
Mhm.
Any final thoughts as we wrap up here?
Well, I just appreciate you doing these interviews and helping us all with your encouraging this part of you that was a teacher. It's just delicious. Like, I really appreciate you being able to honor a person and help them edit their works. Amazing.
Well, it's been a joy, and I know you would agree. It's really been just, it's given me much more than I would have ever expected.
Yeah, much more than on paper. Yes.
Right. Okay, well, Tammy, congratulations on Brave. And thank you for kind of setting this all out for us, because we'll be following up with the other authors and hearing more about their individual stories. But I think this is a great way to kind of launch this book and tell people what it's about and tell them how they can be involved in the next one.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for your time and your heart and all the things.
And you as well.
Mm.
Thanks, Tammy. Bye-bye.